Chapter 1. Thato and His Grandparents.
In a middle-class suburban neighborhood, a retired man with salt and pepper hair stands on his porch, watching the corner as intently as if it were the final seconds of a close championship basketball game. From his vantage point, he can see his grandson getting off the school bus. As the students meander across the street, causing a symphony of honks from the waiting cars, the man grumbles to his wife of nearly 40 years. She, a slim, tall woman with almond-toned skin, returns to the porch, armed with a cold glass of water. "This," he mutters, "is why we got roped into watching our 13-year-old grandson after school." Gigi, as she's known, hushes her husband just as their bespectacled grandson ambles down the driveway, eyes glued to his handheld game console. Thato manages to look up just in time to give his grandmother a big hug on the porch and a cool fist bump to Pop Pop, now comfortably settled in his cushioned patio chair. Thato heads inside, drops his backpack by the office doorway. On the other side of the foyer sits the living room with the television on. Thato makes a beeline for the kitchen. On the island, he finds a plate with a whole wheat turkey sandwich, some sliced apples, a bag of chips, and a cup of water. Gigi yells through the screen door, reminding Thato to wash his hands, just as he's starting to scrub at the kitchen sink. The grandparents had stopped working a couple of years ago, but it sometimes felt like their real work had only just begun. They had raised 2 adult children and sent them off to college, a daughter who was married and had a son, Thato, and a son who graduated from college and now worked for a shipping company. First, Pop Pop, or Harold as he was known to most, had retired from his director position at an environmental company. The following year, Gigi, who's named Gloria, stepped away from her role as a school principal. Life had dramatically changed since the pandemic, and while they were both in decent health, they no longer needed the hustle and bustle that work required now that they were in their mid to late 60s. At first, it was a whirlwind of fun. Harold tried Zumba, which resulted in some entertainingly uncoordinated dance moves, and Gloria threw herself into art projects, producing enough macaroni art to feed a small army. They even dabbled in the community book club. However, after a year, the novelty began to wear off. The art projects became repetitive, the exercise sessions required driving to the facility, and the book club was just plain irritating. Although Gloria and Harold loved to read, the book selections never matched their interests. They were in the minority, and despite a few half-hearted attempts to be more inclusive, the majority always voted for subservient and violent narratives that ignored non-monolithic and diverse cultures. Both Harold and Gloria came from 2-parent, educated, and loving households. Harold often joked, "If I have to read one more book about a drug dealer, a beaten woman, or a brooding detective with a dark past, I'll start solving crimes myself, beginning with who keeps picking these books." Gloria nodded, adding, "And if I see another painting of a fruit bowl, I'll scream. Seriously, how many apples and bananas can one person paint?" Still, whenever there were volunteer events, Gloria and Harold were always ready to help. Whether it was serving at the local food bank or organizing a charity bake sale, they were there with bells on, sometimes literally. Harold had a penchant for holiday-themed attire that he wore year-round, much to Gloria's chagrin. In the end, despite the mundane routines and occasional frustrations, Gloria and Harold found ways to keep busy and stay connected. Gloria was delighted to have the opportunity to look after her grandson after school. At 13, Thato could likely have managed being home alone for the 3 hours until his parents returned from work, but his mother didn't want to risk him getting involved in unsavory behavior or being influenced by other kids. For the most part, Thato was a good kid. There was a minor incident on the bus where Thato and his 2 friends, Lamb and Felix, were shooting spitballs at each other through straws. Some of the spitballs landed in the hair of a girl sitting in front of them. Upset, she told her father, who then contacted the parents of the boys involved. Although Thato insisted it was Felix's spitballs that hit the girl, he was made to apologize. His mother was disgusted with the whole scenario. Thato enjoyed his electronic games, was somewhat social with his classmates, participated in the track club, and did his homework. Math and science were his favorite subjects, though he was less enthusiastic about English. His grandfather, Harold, also enjoyed having his only grandson around, even though he didn't want to admit it. Lately, Harold had taken to complaining about everything. An underlying concern for both Gloria and Harold was their daughter, Zuri, Thato's mother. 2 months prior, she had been teaching science at the high school. Zuri felt her calling was to teach. Before the pandemic, there were some challenges in handling classes. Too many students per class, not enough resources, little parent-teacher cooperation, extra hours for prep and grading, and the pay was not that great. But the impact of teaching the citizens of the future made the challenges worth it. But now, the atmosphere had changed. Periodically, Zuri alluded to disrespect from the kids, coming in late, texting during class, arguments with students, and not taking school seriously. More recently, the students constantly acted out and were not learning, making it seem like a waste of time for both her and the kids. These thoughts had been swirling around in her mind for weeks. One day, after finishing work, she sat in her car for an hour and began to cry uncontrollably. The next day, she told her husband she didn't want to go back. He suggested she take a mental health day. She did. One day turned into 2 days, then a week. Zuri never returned to teach and handed in her resignation. The first week after quitting felt confusing, and she vacillated, wondering if she had made a mistake. Zuri wondered what her purpose was. She worried about what her parents would say. They often questioned the work ethic of her millennial generation. During the second week, her thoughts became more settled. She enjoyed being home when Thato got off the bus and having time to prepare a hot meal for the family. Her husband, Tommy, who was very worried about his wife, was warming to the idea of her being at home. However, by the fourth week, Zuri was going stir-crazy and began searching the county website for a part-time teaching position. The next day, the news reported that an elementary student had shot his teacher in the arm in another county. Zuri decided not to continue searching for a teaching job. While shopping for groceries at the big box wholesale store, Zuri had a wild urge and decided to fill out a job application. To her surprise, the very next day, the store called her. After a quick phone interview, she was offered a position in the return items department. Without thinking about her schedule, she impulsively accepted the job. Her new work hours clashed with Tommy's schedule at the auto repair shop, but her parents were happy to help out in any way they could. Well, at least Gloria was. Harold's enthusiasm was not quite apparent, but he would manage. Zuri and Tommy's townhouse was about 8 miles from her parents, so Thato's bus drop-off was reassigned to the stop closest to his pop-pop and Gigi's house. It took a few days, but the new plan had got into a routine. Thato went to his grandparents after school, ate a snack, started his homework, and was picked up by either Tommy or Zuri around 6:30 p.m.
Do you think Zuri made the right decision by resigning from her teaching job? Why or why not? As always, I would love to hear your comments below. Please don't forget to like and share the video. Be sure to hit the notification button to be notified of the next video. Thank you.